Italy and France were playing. I don't know. Anyway, I will not expand on that, but I will just show you what happened that night in the city of Rome, just by looking at how people transferred megabytes of cell phone usage in the city. So, and this is the video. You will see the day of the World Cup, and the following day what happened in the city of Rome, and that's the video. So you see, this is before the match. It's night, morning, afternoon, evening. So this is the day of the final. Yeah, it's a normal day. People make calls here and there. Then it's afternoon. Then the match begins, silence. France scores, Italy scores, halftime. We'll go to the bathroom, make a quick call. Second half, end of normal time, first overtime, second overtime. Zidane, red card, Italy wins. That night, actually, people went to celebrate here. And the following day as well, they went to meet the Prime Minister and the winning team in this part of town. And then everybody moved here for the day after? The day after, yeah. You see here, there's the day after, morning, afternoon, and then you see this peak in a big park over there. People went to celebrate. And the same summer there was another big event in Rome. That was a concert by Madonna, very polemical in Italy. Madonna had a concert. She was on a cross. The Pope was not very happy, but still 60,000 people went to see her. And you see here the concert was here at the stadium. And look at what happens in the city on the network that day. You see people in the early afternoon starting to move towards the stadium. In this case, again, it's all aggregated information, like megabytes transferred on the network. And the reason it's going so high is actually because so many people then taking footage, live video from the concert and beaming it. So that's why you see this at the concert, this big peak on the stadium. So this was, to show what happens, and all this information in real time. So if you were in Rome, you could actually get and see where the people were and what was happening. You can do more sophisticated things. So what you see here is actually we use artificial intelligence to detect the density of pedestrians. So what you see in red here is the density of pedestrians. And you can do that by applying artificial intelligence onto the aggregated data. You see how telephone traffic is migrating in the city. It's not so easy to do in Rome, because actually in Rome often pedestrians move faster than cars. So you cannot just use speed in order to see what's a pedestrian, what's a car. But if you use speed, and then if you add acceleration, and if you add a few other things of a bit of artificial intelligence, you can estimate pedestrians. And then what you see on the other side, all the yellow dots are all the taxis and the cabs and the buses. And the idea here was to see, is there a good match between the offer of public transportation and the demand of public transportation? So how can we optimize it? Can we think about a future where it's not the people going to follow the bus, but it's actually the bus going to pick up the people, to follow the people? That would be like the future scenarios we can think about. Okay, so this was the project, was at the Biennale. Everything was great, but there was a problem. And the main problem there was that we had all this data collected in Rome, but we were showing it in Venice. So we didn't close the loop. Well, what becomes very interesting in a city is if you get real-time information, you close the loop. You create like a feedback. It's like in an engineering system, it becomes like a real-time control system, and we'll see it in a moment. So what we did the following year, 2007, and what we are doing now with a big project in Singapore, we stopped working with Rome after the new neo-fascist mayor was elected and actually cancelled half of the things. And so we stopped working with Rome, but we're now working with Singapore. The thing we did in 2007, when the last year, the previous mayor, we actually gave this information back to the citizens during a very special night. It's called the White Night. It's a little bit like what happens in Paris as well. The whole night, everybody's up and everything is open. And in that case, we actually had all the information about where the people go, all the sort of aggregate information. We had all the buses and taxis, the trains. We had La Repubblica, the main newspaper in Italy, actually giving us real-time feed from what was happening, like geo-blogging in real time about what was happening in the city. And we gave this in big projections in the city so that if you were in Rome, you could actually make your decision based on what you could see on the screen. You see everybody going in this place, and then you could go there as well, or you could see, the mayor is going here and going the other way, or change your decision making based on what you would see on the screen. And the main idea is really how can we have a city that then have real-time feedback. Now, if you look at Formula One or car in general, there was a big revolution that happened like 10 years ago. The big revolution is that people started treating this as a real-time control system. So that happened with electronics. Now in a car like this, there's a few thousand sensors. All those sensors collect information about the car, send it to a big computer. When you go to see a Formula One Grand Prix, you see all those computers, one next to the other, and people analyzing it. All this information is sent in real time, processed, and then based on that, sends back things to the car. So maybe you see that the car has low pressure in something, and that is captured by a little tiny, teeny sensor. And then this information is processed, and then a decision is made to, say, increase the pressure of the oil or do something into the car. Now, this was a big change in Formula One, and that's actually something that completely changed the rules of the game in the past decade. And this has become in the Grand Prix more important than actually the car, or as important as the car. All of this real-time control system. Now, the question then is, can we have a city that behaves in the same way? So look at the 4 components of a real-time control system. And the slide is in Italian, but so you got a system that's natural or artificial, and then you got sensors, and then you got some artificial intelligence, and then you got some actuators. So if you go back to the Formula One car, then you got the car, and then you got these few thousand sensors, and then all this information is sent to the computers you saw before, it's analyzed, and then you got some actuators that perhaps is a pump that pumps oil into the car, or does something like this. And this is a standard real-time control system diagram from engineering that has been, there's been tons of work in engineering in this field in the past decades. The question is, how can you have a city that behaves like a real-time control system? Well, let's think together. So we have a city. Sensors we now have a lot. We can use the cell phone as we saw, or we can use all this sort of smart dust, all of these little sensors we can put in the environment. The intelligence system, sure, we can have and develop, but the main problem in a city is the actuation. So think about a city, think about a traffic jam. So you can see that there's a big traffic jam. You cannot actuate the city in the sense you cannot double the size of the street in real time just because there's a traffic jam. You cannot change it. The city has a lot of inertia, so you cannot change the bits so easily. However, the city has a beautiful property that's citizens. And actually, if you have citizens in the picture, you can actually give this information to the citizens, and they become both the intelligence part of the system and the actuations. So if you give in real time this information to the citizens, we, all of us, will change our decision making in order to do something different based on the information we get. So we really create a real-time control system. And this is what we are actually going to do from next year in Singapore, taking forward the project. I'll show you another project that started actually with the Rome project. So we got the following year, actually in 2008, last year, an invitation from the MoMA in New York to show the same project at MoMA. We didn't really want to redo the same thing, so we said, why don't we do something else? We teamed up with Saskia Sassen, who was mentioned before as well, and we said, how can we use the telecommunication data to better understand flows of information on the global scale? And so the first thing we looked at, we partnered with AT&T, and we called the project New York Talk Exchange. Here you can see the global flow, so you got the megabytes being transferred from New York to every other destination. And then the amount of megabytes is the color of the line, and also the big yellow bright dot on the planet. And then you got the day and the night. So the night to the right, and the day you see with the light. And you see then how the flow of data changes, again in real time, over space and over time. How this evolves in the course of the day. With the night coming, it reduces, and with the day, it picks up again. So if we zoom in, for instance, into Europe, Here you see Europe waking up.